Alduin is real, and he ain't Akatosh, by Tromgar Ironhead, proud Nord. He wrote it in his own way. As my dad used to say, Imperials are idiots. That is why I'm writing this book. I ain't never wrote a book before, and I do not reckon to write one again. But sometimes a man must do what a man must do. And what I must do is set the record straight about the god called Akatosh and the dragon called Alduin. They ain't the same thing, no matter what them Imperials might say, or how they might wish it to be so. My dad never was one for the gods, but my ma was. She worshipped all the divines and taught me lots of things. So, I know a thing or two about Akatosh, just as much as any Imperial. I know he was the first of all gods to take shape in the beginning place, and I know he has the shape of a dragon. My dad even told me the story of Martin Septon, and the things that what happened when the gates to oblivion opened. Septum turned into the spirit of Akatosh and killed Merun's Dagon. Now I don't know about you, but any dragon that fights the Prince of Destruction is okay by me. Now I hope you understand the problem. Akatosh is good. Everyone, from Nord to Imperial, knows that. But Alduin, he ain't good. He's the opposite of good. That Alduin is evil through and through. So you see, Akatosh and Alduin can be one and the same. Growing up as a lad in Skyrim, I heard all the stories. Told me by my dad. Who was told by his dad, and so on. And one of those stories was about Alduin. But see, he was not Akatosh. He was another dragon, and a real one at that. Akatosh is some kind of spirit dragon, I think. When he bothers to be a dragon at all, another god living in some kind of god place like Oblivion. But Alduin is a real dragon, with flesh and teeth and a mean streak, longer than the White River. And there was a time when Alduin tried to rule over all of Skyrim, with his other dragons. In the end, it took some mighty strong heroes to finally kill Alduin and be done with this whole sorry story. So I got to ask, does that sound like Akatosh to you? No, friend. No, I do not. And so I, Tromgar Ironhead, do firmly say, what the utmost conviction, oh my god, that Alduin is real, and he ain't Akatosh. Whoa, that was a hard read. Hey, he might have some points right there. I mean, some of it seems like just babbling, but I can get what he means. Legend of the Red Eagle. Seems interesting. The Legend of the Red Eagle by Tredain Dren, Archivist of Winterhold. His tale was transcribed from the memory of Clarice Vienne. Students of Winterhold. Elements of the legend suggest a date circa First Era 1030. Though as with many oral traditions, much of it is likely a later anachronism. Curiously, stories of a similar king and his legendary blade appear in other ancient myths of the Reach. Long ago, a child was born in the Sundered Hills. They named him Phelan, which means Red Eagle. So, let me do that again. They named him Phelan, which means Red Eagle in the tongue of the Reach, for the screeching bird call that greeted his birth, and the crimson blooms on the autumn hills. Thus began the legend. Reach child, born under auspicious skies, his very name the color of blood. 10 kings ruled the Reach in those days, and though men were free, the people were scattered and warred amongst themselves. The augurs foresaw the boy's destiny, a warrior without peer, first and foremost Lord of the Reach, chosen to unite all under his name. Phelan grew in years and strength, and it seemed the prophecy would be fulfilled. The banner of the Red Eagle was raised along the cliffs of the Reach, and his people prospered. Then came Hestra, Empress of the South, riding to war. One by one the kings stood before her. One by one they fell aside, bending knee in imperial bargains or slaughtered on the battlefield. Her legions came at last to the sundered hills, and envoys were sent to bargain for their surrender. Phelan refused to yield the freedom of his people, but the elders were afraid, cast him out, and accept the imperial yoke. Thus was stolen by foreign invaders his land, his people, his very name. In the years that followed, Red Eagle became known as the untamed spirit of the Reach, unbowed, unbroken, stained by the blood of his foes. He gathered loyal Reachmen to himself, those who clung to the old ways, who yearned to freedom and forged a new nation. Together they fell upon the occupiers and the traders by night, disappearing into the cliffs and caves each morn, evading capture. It was not enough. For every imperial patrol and garrison they wiped out, yet more seemed to march from the green south to replace them. One night, under a cloud-choked sky, the men of the Red Eagle warmed themselves over the damp fires of smoldering moss. A huddled, shambling figure came to them, cloaked in rags, face cowled. Though his men mocked and cast stones at the stranger, Phelan sensed something and beckoned. The cowl was thrown back in dim light, and she revealed herself to be one of the ancient and venerable hag ravens. She offered power for a price, and the pact was made. Thus was brokered to the witch his heart, his will, his humanity. From that day forth, he was a spirit of vengeance, pitiless and beyond remorse. The rebels grew in strength and numbers, and none could stand against them. Phelan's eyes burned coldly in those days, black opals reflecting a mind not entirely his own. 2 years passed, and the foreigners were all but driven from the Reach. Such peace could not last, however, and a great host fell upon them, a swift army of invaders unlike any before. For a fortnight Hestra's generals laid siege to the Red Eagle stronghold, till he himself came forth for battle, alone and robbed in nothing but his righteous fury. 1,000 foreigners fell before his flaming sword, and the enemy was routed. Yet, when night fell, so too did he. The warriors who came to him said Phelan's eyes were clear again on that final night. He was taken to the place prepared for him, a tomb hidden deep within the rock, a redoubt amongst the cliffs near where the rivers split and rejoin. With his remaining strength, he presented his sword to his people and swore an oath, fight on, and when at last the Reach is free, his blade should be returned, that he might rise and lead them again. Thus was given for his people, his life, his dream, his sword. But when every debt is repaid in blood, these he shall reclaim once more. Sounds like a weapon might be hidden somewhere. A weapon of great power. We'll just take the book. Not take Lost Legends of Skyrim. by Talsgar the Elder, archivist of Winterhold. The history of Skyrim is vast, predating even the most ancient records of man and Mer. Much has been lost, fallen to the ravages of war, and of the turning of the ages, but nothing is ever truly forgotten. Where no records exist, legends and folk tales offer us a key to the past, a way to piece together truths half remembered in the minds of men. For generations, the people of Mortal have told whispered tales of the Pale Lady, a ghostly woman who wanders the northern marshes, forever seeking her lost daughter. Some say she steals children who wander astray, others that her sobbing wail strikes dead all those who hear it. But behind these tales may lie a kernel of truth, for ancient records speak of Umriel, a mysterious figure Isgramor's heirs battled for decades, and finally sealed away. Reachmen tell of the story of Phelan Red Eagle, an ancient king who rallied his people and drove back the armies of Cyrodiil with a flaming sword. Though accounts vary, they too seem to be based on an underlying truth. The imperial chronicles of Empress Hestra mention a rebel leader of that era, who was eventually cornered and slain in battle, at the cost of a full legion of men. But some tales prove far harder to analyze. Among scholars, perhaps the best known is the forbidden legend of the archmage Galder. In the dawning days of the First Era, the story goes, there lived a powerful wizard by the name of Galder. Wise and just, he was well known in the courts of King Harold and the Jarls of Skyrim, and his aid and the council were sought by men and Mer alike. And then he was murdered. Some say one of his sons killed him, others that King Harold, jealous of his power, gave the order. But Galder's 3 sons fled into the night, pursued by a company of Harold's best warriors and the Lord Gurmund, the king's personal battle mage. A great chase ensued, from the wilds of the Reach to the glacial north. One brother is said to have perished in the ruins of Fulguntur at the foot of Solitude. The others were run to the ground soon thereafter. And once it was done, King Harold ordered every record of their murders destroyed, and Galder's name and deeds were struck from the rolls of history. Even today, few sources remain, and no bard will tell the tale, but perhaps the truth yet remains in some ancient room, waiting to be unearthed. For nothing is ever truly forgotten. The Atherium Wars by Taran Dread, dedicated to Katria, my friend and colleague. The end, when it came, was swift. In the span of the 3 short years, the great dwarven cities of Skyrim, from Market to the Veluti Mountains, fell before the armies of the High King. Cities that had held fast against the North for over 100 years crumbled abruptly and without warning. For centuries, scholars have marveled at the sudden collapse of the Dwemer city-states. Even the North seemed to have been taken by surprise, though their chroniclers were quick to ascribe their success to King Kellear's inspired tactics and the blessings of Shor. My research suggests a much different cause, however. In the decades preceding their fall, the dwarven cities of Skyrim had been decimated by internal disputes and infighting over a most surprising cause: Aetherium. Modern scholars know Aetherium as a rare, luminescent blue crystal found in some Dwemer ruins. Most consider it little more than a curiosity, as it has proven all but impossible to work with. While it has a strong magical aura, it is alchemically inert, and no known process can enchant, smelt, mold, bind, or break it. To the dwarves, of course, such problems were merely a challenge. In the years following King Harold's reign, the Dwemer discovered a considerable source of Aetherium in their deepest delvings. An alliance of 4 cities, led by Arcantums, the great research center in the southern reach, was formed to oversee its extraction, processing and studying, and a new Aetherium forge constructed to smelt it under precisely controlled conditions. If the inscriptions I discovered are to be believed, the results were nothing short of spectacular. The items produced by the forge were artifacts of immense power, imbued from the moment of their creation with powerful enchantments. The Dwarven alliance shattered almost immediately as the 4 city-states and their rivals attempted to claim the forge. We can only speculate that none were successful. Decades of conflict merely weakened them all, allowing for King Geller's subsequent conquest. And though the Dwemer reclaimed most of their lands a century later, there is no evidence that they ever resumed their research on Aetherium. Perhaps the cost had been too great. But nothing like the Aetherium forge described in the inscriptions has ever been found within the borders of Skyrim. It may have been destroyed long ago by the Nord invaders or the Dwemer themselves. Or perhaps it, like the secrets of Aetherium itself, still remains to be discovered.